The second generation Acura Legend is an engineering and marketing grand slam, not just for Honda, but for all cars in North America, because the Legend did what no other sedan was able to do: make a front-wheel drive luxury car desirable.
Where's my cam? Where's my cam? There's my cam, 4,500 RPM. More to go. She's a Honda, 6,000 RPM. Nice.
Sounds good too.
Yeah.
The first generation Acura Legend, manufactured from 1985 to 1990, was a nothing car. It was a Honda Accord with Elmer's glitter glue on it and an unjustifiable price tag. Gen 1s were selling okay, but in 1989, the Acura name was about to become irrelevant to luxury because in 1989, Lexus dropped the LS400. The LS400 did Mercedes better than Mercedes with Toyota build quality and reliability. The LS400s are so good, they're still on the road today. Honda's Acura Legend was about to become Montrose. What? Yeah, no one remembers the band Montrose because Van Halen smothered them like Yokozuna sitting on a hemorrhoid pillow. Honda realized in 1989 that no matter how good the Legend was, luxury car buyers still wanted traditional designs. Front engine, V8 engines, rear drive, quiet, fast, comfortable, and flattering. They wanted the interior feel. They wanted the whole car to smell like money. Oh, yes. This car, I have made the right decision. I'm making decisions tonight. Close the blinds. I've got 1 liter of saline and you get to connect the dots. And the Lexus LS400 gave Americans and Canadians exactly what they wanted. Honda didn't have a front engine rear drive platform that could swallow a V8. Now, the more astute among you remember that even though Honda doesn't do V8s, they did build a V8 in the 80s. It was a 2.65-liter turbo V8, but it was only available for racing applications and never sold to the public. It made, I'm not kidding, 850 horsepower at full boost. Sorry, I'm having a moment. Acura Legends, right. Honda kept the Gen 1 Legend going for only 1 year after the Lexus LS400 appeared. In reality, Honda was getting the second generation Legend ready the moment they caught wind of the LS400. But how do you compete with the greatest traditional luxury car ever built when you don't have one of your own to offer customers? What Honda did was brilliant. Because they couldn't fundamentally change what the Legend was, they instead changed what luxury meant in their customers' minds. The second gen Acura Legend screams luxury and quality from the moment your fingers touch the door handle to the second your right foot presses down on the accelerator pedal. They made this an experience from the moment you look at the car. They changed everything about what this car meant. The doors click open. It's not heavy like a Lexus. It's light, but precise. The key, snap, 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 snap. When you slide that key in, you can feel each pin, I keep saying the word precise, assertively move like a typewriter clacking or a marching snare drum, like doing a double stroke roll. The seatbelt, as you pull it over your shoulder, makes a zip sound. And the gear selector goes clunk, 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 snap as you select drive. All of this is on purpose. There's nothing about the second gen Legend that is a mistake. And from these tightly stitched upholstered driver's seats, your view is like a fighter jet. You are locked in. And when the 200 horsepower C32A 3.2 liter V6, again, they don't have a V8, they have a V6. When that V6 starts, it makes a sound similar to the 1UZ V8 from the Lexus LS400. Remember, this is the early 1990s. The retro revival of rumbly engines doesn't really begin in the public eye until Ford makes the S197 Mustang, the round headlight one, in 2006. No. In the early 1990s, luxury engineers wanted engines to go bzzz, no matter the displacement, no matter the number of cylinders. Why? Because throughout the late 70s and throughout all of the 1980s, Mercedes defined the understated sound of upper social castes with their old money mutual fund inline sixes, more specifically the W124 and the W126. Listen to one of those straight six engines start up and you're hearing the sound of Reagan-era money. And it's a sound that echoed into the early 2000s. That is the sound this Honda C32A engine is making. Bzzz, yes, you have made the right decision. The point of all of this, the feel, the touch, every little sound this car makes, all your senses, the way it smells, is to wow the customer to the point where the front engine V6 front wheel drive layout becomes a non-issue. And furthermore, the dimensions of the second gen Legend was changed. It was thickened, it was lengthened. It mimics the outward appearance of a front engine rear wheel drive V8 luxury car. Plus, look at this. Now we get into the technology. You open the hood. Is it an accident that you can see a physical bubble level on the top of your headlight enclosures? You're a man of precision. You're a person of precision. You can bust in suburban station Philadelphia. It's an automatic, yes, but manuals for these cars are available. But if you have the automatic, you have control of all four of your gears because you are in control. You are a person of action with these molded headlights where some manufacturers are still using sealed beams. The trunk release is on the lower section of the driver's door. No reaching across into the glove box like an American car. You're driving an Acura. You're in control of your life. You're in control of the trunk. There are some unnecessary steps here. The instrument dimmer light knob is a push-in, release, spring-loaded John. It doesn't need to be that way, but it's there to demonstrate the precision. I keep using that word, the precision of Honda's assembly technology. Yes, we will make this simple switch that's going to go in, out, in, out, in, out as you adjust your instrument lights. And it's going to do that for 40 years. Quick aside here, as you look at the speedometer, you can still see the 55 mile an hour call out in 1992. That's still there. That's a holdover from the oil embargo from the 70s. First when they tried to, and they did, change our national speed limit from 65 to 55. So even though this car is fuel efficient enough, they were still putting these on American cars where, oh, you still need the 55 mile an hour thing so you know it's there. I mean, I'd like to know in the comments if you have a reason why they kept doing this into the 90s when they didn't need to anymore. And if you don't understand how significant this bootleg tape is, I'm not going to get into this now. Brian, just keep talking about cars. Honda was just worried that they wouldn't be taken seriously in the United States as a luxury brand. And while it was true that Nissan was also exploring the possibility of being taken seriously in terms of luxury with their Infiniti brand, I think seeing the effect Acura was having on the luxury market as a newcomer up against all these tenured brands really solidified the decision to go all in. Fuel economy of this front-engine V6 is acceptable, but kind of poor by today's standards. You're getting 17 miles per gallon city, but only 22 highway. And 19 combined. Really? I'm a little surprised how thirsty this V6 is. And it's not like this is unaerodynamic. This is a very aerodynamic car. But maybe the owner, Keegan, is just driving this thing at full blast all the time because it sounds so good when you do it.
And I think we're just going to ride out second. Ooh, WS6. Ooh. Oh, Honda. Just make cars like these again, please. Just make an engine that's happy.
Like there's nothing, there's no new car that I would go out right now and say I want that more than I want this.
Can any car today, just a regular sedan, just make you happy on a little hill?
There is a little bit of a rasp and a growl in the upper registers of this engine, even though Acura was trying to keep this thing as quiet as it could possibly be. And it is quiet. The quality of this, being a classic car, is still way better than any Tesla I've been in. And I think the power is surprising because it definitely doesn't look like something with a lot of juice to it. But as you feel it, yes, this is LS400 adjacent. It's formidable. It's a surprising little car. If you separate it from its historical context, where it didn't really evolve as much as it could have, it's bigger and more powerful than the first generation. It's a very pleasant feeling, and it's particular. I use that word to avoid saying it's quirky, because I don't think a volume knob that moves in conjunction with the steering wheel volume control is that weird. Nor is the rear antenna, which retracts when you open the trunk. Because actually, the rear antenna, if it's at full extension, the trunk, when it comes up, will hit it. I think this is, I said there was nothing done on accident, but that was done on accident. Like, oh crap, the trunk hits the radio antenna. We'll just make the radio antenna go back down when the trunk comes up and make sure it goes down fast enough so it doesn't hit it. Was this as good as a Lexus? No. You're still competing with a V8. You're still competing with rear-wheel drive. And these things weren't really priced to compete. Compete directly, one-on-one. That's why Acura made this more sporty. That's why it has the jet fighter-like interior. Honda could have pivoted. They could have made a front-engine rear-wheel drive car, but they didn't. As the story goes, Honda thought that the Legend nameplate was becoming bigger than the actual marquee. I mean, people were rapping about this car. A Tribe Called Quest mentioned it in their rap lyrics. I'm trying to remember the lyrics. I'm going to have to voice myself in a minute. Booming in your Jeep or your Honda or your Beamer or your Legend or your Benz, the rave of the town to your foes and your friends. But you see about those lyrics, that didn't say Acura Legend. They just said Legend. So as Acura kept making this car, or as Honda kept making this car, they realized that this vehicle was getting bigger than the manufacturer. So instead of continuing to use this concise, evocative name, Legend, they started using acronyms that didn't stand for anything. I mean, I guess MDX means multi-dimensional luxury. In the same way, the Acura NSX means new sports experimental. But that kind of proves the point. Those names are so devoid of soul, they belong in the pages of a magazine inside a beige condo with vinyl floors made to look like wood. It's like executives sat in the boardroom and thought of how they could capture the forced enthusiasm of an office picnic. They ended up rebadging this as the RL for the third generation, and then watched as it struggled to remain relevant. Maybe the bigger issue is that Honda never really came up with a front-wheel drive, rear-drive layout with a V8. Maybe in the same way they never made a true pickup truck. Not that Honda's a bad company. It's up there with Toyota all the time. Maybe they just put more research into their motorsports division. You know, their motorcycles. Honda motorcycles are the Toyotas of motorcycles, because Toyota doesn't make motorcycles. Hondas are the best motorcycles you can buy. But when it came to courting old money, Honda was losing out to the W210 and the BMW 5 Series later on, and reacting in open defiance to what the numbers were reflecting and what the people were asking for. And in their infinite wisdom, they thought, no, people don't want a better drive, they want better handling. Because yes, this Acura Legend is one of the best sports sedans, luxury kind of everything, if you don't count the 3 Series, right? But this thing is reliable and cheap to maintain in the way a BMW never will be. But they made this fantastic vehicle in the second generations, and then they went to acronyms so vague that when you tell people what they're driving, they'll think it was made by a better company. And maybe Honda learned all the wrong lessons because they adopted the wrong things from their luxury rivals. They took the branding when they should have taken the layout. And in making that choice, they drove the Legend into the ground like a lawn sign from a candidate who lost 20 years ago. But the argument really is that they shouldn't have taken anything at all, because Acura snuffed out their own fire. They blazed a trail right into an open pool. It's like their ambition deserted them the minute they became successful here with the second gen, which is as honestly a tale as old as time in any industry. Because instead of carving their own path, they chased the trends of the brands they were already outselling. It's like a legendary rock band who changes their sound to match the younger bands they influenced. And yeah, Acura is still around, and it seems like they're doing okay, but they're not making luxury anything. The MDX, it's just a pile of money that doesn't do anything. And it doesn't feel like luxury. Looking back, this feels like luxury. Even in a sort of sporty retro way, this is still a fantastic vehicle and better made than almost anything you can buy today. In 2025, sales are up for Acura. They're doing better than they were in 2024. But I guess the issue that I have is at a certain point, it seemed like they stopped doing cars like the Legend for the love of the game. And I know no one creates a product for the love of the game unless it's the Lexus LFA or the Morris Mini or the Mini Cooper or whatever you want to call the classic Mini. Everybody is motivated by the bottom line, and even when this launched, Honda had the goal of platforming the Acura in the US market and going after the Lexus LS400, which they were successful in. But I feel like there was a time when Honda wanted more for Acura, and it was reflected in what they produced. Would I buy an Acura anything today? Anything new? No. I'd just buy a Honda Accord and be happy with that. And look, we absolutely at Regular Car Reviews, both Nick and myself, we hate that we're constantly looking back. Neither of us likes that we're caught up in the nostalgia as the rest of the world seems to be. Trust me, it's as exhausting as living in a battleground state. But nostalgia can't flourish in a world worth celebrating. Things are generally less good now. Products don't feel like they have the same heart, the same care. We keep trying to find those gems where we can, and so in a very Gaspian sense, we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. That's overly sentimental. I thought about ending the video here. But this is a fantastic car, and it still exists. We can still have these things. And on the other hand, nostalgia with cars maybe doesn't exist, because the car is still here. You can still drive it. It's still functional. It's doing everything that it was meant to do in 1992 and 2025, and it's still a useful piece of technology for you to own. Keegan drives this every day. Why wouldn't he? And these second-gen Acura Legends are as loved now as they were then. Because this was a car built with care. Because it's fun. Because everything here still clicks into place. This is a real car for a real person that enjoys the quality of good craftsmanship. So if you can buy an Acura Legend from the 90s, a second-gen, buy it.
When I was in high school, cars like these... Actually, okay, so in the 90s, I graduated year 2000. This was still a newish car. But by the time I was in college, these things, Fast and the Furious had come out, and a lot of these things, limo black tint all around.
Yep.
And this was the car, the Acura Legend was a car for the weed dealer.
Yep.
Because back then, you could sell weed and make a lot of money. Yeah, these were, okay, this, as we go over the bumps and the tragedy that is US 422, this is a more sport-oriented car than the LS400.
That tracks. Yeah.
This, I feel the road more. The LS400 is dead smooth.
Yeah.
This thing expects you to be, this is more of a sports sedan.
Yep.
Were these available in manual transmissions?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And there was one recently for sale in New Jersey, a red one, with a manual gearbox, and I was real tempted in my head about the Lexus being the killer of this car, where he was talking about this is a fantastic car that was up against the rear-wheel drive V8.
Yeah,
And everybody at the time, even though this arguably is just as nice of a car, just as fun to drive, to your point, you're not drifting freaking Lexus sedan.
No.
So what do you need? Why do you have to have the traditional setup like
Yeah.
that? I don't know.
And then a few years later, everybody would just be creaming their pants over the Preludes. So, and the Preludes were always front-wheel drive. So, what's the problem here? I guess because it's a hatchback and it's okay to have front-wheel drive in a hatchback
yeah.
versus a sedan like this.